High Counselor Zex Thran stood before the emergency assembly of the Galactic Council, his metallic face showing stress fractures that hadn't been there 6 months ago. The great chamber that had once symbolized his absolute authority now felt like a trap. The situation has become unacceptable, he declared, his voice echoing through the nearly empty hall. Many species had stopped sending representatives claiming security concerns. The human terrorist attacks have cost us over 300 ships and thousands of personnel. Our supply lines are disrupted. Our manufacturing capacity is reduced by 40%, and several member species are openly questioning our authority. War Marshal Krithon of the Zephyrian Empire slammed his fist on the podium. Enough games. We have played their little hit-and-run tactics long enough. It's time to remind the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council. We destroy Earth completely just as we did Cytheria Prime. The few remaining representatives murmured agreement. They had tried conventional responses and failed. It was time for the final solution. Assemble the Grand Fleet, Zexithran ordered. Every available ship from every member species. We end this once and for all. What they didn't know was that Commander Yoon-ji Nam's intelligence network had infiltrated the Council's communication systems months ago. Within hours of the decision being made, Admiral Kim knew exactly what was coming. They're massing everything they have, Nam reported from her secure command center on Luna. Current intelligence suggests over 1,500 capital ships, plus escorts and support vessels, the largest fleet in galactic history. Admiral Kim stood in the war room aboard his flagship Soul's Fury, studying the tactical projections. After months of guerrilla warfare, the enemy was finally committing to a decisive battle. It was exactly what he had been hoping for. Our forces? He asked. Ghost fleets are positioned and ready, reported Admiral Bay. Manufacturing has exceeded all projections. We have 850 combat vessels ready for action, plus support craft. Captain Wu Jin-yoon, now commanding the captured hegemony dreadnought they had renamed Cytherian Vengeance, added his report. Deep space monitoring stations confirm enemy fleet concentration at Nexus Prime. They'll reach Earth in 72 hours. Kim smiled grimly. Perfect. Signal all units. Operation Final Justice is now active. What the Council forces saw as they approached the Sol system looked exactly like what they expected, a desperate last stand. Human ships were positioned in defensive formations around Earth, with reserve units staged near Mars and the asteroid belt. It appeared that humanity had finally run out of tricks and was forced to fight a conventional battle. Fleet Admiral Dexmore's replacement, a younger hegemony commander named Vexcrawl, studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. Just as predicted, he told his staff, the humans have been forced to defend their homeworld. No more hit-and-run attacks, no more hiding behind stealth technology. Finally, we can crush them properly. The Council fleet was massive beyond imagination, 1,500 capital ships in perfect formation, their combined firepower capable of destroying entire solar systems. As they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their sensors immediately detected the human defensive positions. All units, prepare for orbital bombardment, Vexcrawl ordered. We'll turn Earth into another Cytheria Prime. But as the Council fleet moved deeper into the system, Admiral Kim sprang his trap. The first surprise came from Captain Sujin Moon, commanding a hidden defense platform disguised as a small asteroid. Her installation, along with dozens of others scattered throughout the system, suddenly came online with weapons and shields that far exceeded anything the Council had expected. All platforms, open fire, she commanded. Massive energy beams lanced out from positions the enemy hadn't even known existed. Council ships that had been confidently approaching Earth suddenly found themselves under devastating attack from multiple directions. But that was just the beginning. Admiral Jin-A Lee led the main battle fleet that emerged from concealment behind Jupiter's moons. These weren't the ships the Council had been tracking. They were new vessels incorporating the best of human engineering and captured alien technology. Faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything humanity had fielded before. All units engage the enemy, Lee commanded. Remember Cytheria Prime. The Council forces suddenly found themselves surrounded. What had appeared to be a simple planetary assault had become a massive trap. Human ships attacked from every direction, while hidden defense platforms poured fire into their formations. Captain Bo Ram Choi led bomber squadrons that struck at the heart of the enemy fleet. Her pilots, trained in tactics that no alien military had ever seen, seemed to anticipate every defensive move the Council ships made. "Target their command vessels first," she ordered, as her bombers dove through a formation of hegemony dreadnoughts. "Cut the head off the snake." The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. The Council forces had expected to face desperate, disorganized resistance. Instead, they were being systematically torn apart by a military machine that seemed to know exactly how they would respond to every situation. Commander Jae-won Kim coordinated the information warfare campaign that accompanied the physical battle. As Council ships died in the darkness of space, broadcasts went out across the galaxy showing the invincible Council fleet being destroyed by the species they had dismissed as primitive. "Let every world in the galaxy see this," he told his communication teams. "Let them see what happens to genocidal tyrants when they face humans who remember their friends." Captain Kyung-ho Nam led fighter wings that danced through the enemy formations like schools of predatory fish. His pilots used tactics based on human psychology, rather than traditional military doctrine, striking at points where they could cause maximum confusion and fear. "They're panicking," he reported as his fighters tore through a squadron of Zephyrian interceptors. "Their formations are breaking down. They're not used to fighting an enemy that doesn't follow their rules." The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Council had brought overwhelming force to a conventional fight, but the humans were fighting an unconventional battle on ground of their own choosing. Every advantage the aliens had counted on was neutralized by human ingenuity and preparation. As his fleet crumbled around him, Fleet Admiral Vexkral sent increasingly desperate messages to any Council ship that could still receive them. "All units, fall back to defensive positions," he ordered. "Regroup behind the heavy cruiser screen." But there was nowhere to fall back to. Human forces had surrounded the entire Council fleet, and their hit-and-run tactics had evolved into a coordinated campaign of annihilation. Admiral Kim watched the battle displays from his command center, feeling a cold satisfaction as each enemy ship was eliminated. This wasn't just victory. It was justice for billions of murdered Catherians. "Signal from the enemy. Flagship," reported his communications officer. The Kai. Image of Fleet Admiral Vexkral appeared on the main screen. The alien commander looked desperate and confused. "Admiral Kim," he said, "I request terms for surrender. Surely reasonable beings can reach an accommodation." Kim's expression was as hard as asteroid rock. "You came here to exterminate my species just as you exterminated the Catherians. You brought genocide weapons to our home system. What terms did you offer them?" That was different. They were a threat to galactic security. "They were healers and teachers who never hurt anyone," Kim replied. "Just like humanity, they were guilty of only one crime, being your friend. There are no terms. There is only justice." The transmission ended and the battle continued. When it was over, only a handful of Council ships escaped to carry word of the disaster back to their home systems. Over 1,400 alien vessels had been destroyed, including the entire command structure of both the Hegemony Collective and the Zephyrian Empire. But Admiral Kim wasn't finished. "All fleets, prepare for Phase 4, he ordered. "We're taking this war to their home systems." They wanted to show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Council. Now we show them what happens to species that commit genocide against our friends. The human fleet, barely damaged despite the massive battle, began moving toward Council space. Behind them, Earth continued its normal rotation, protected by defenders who had proven that humanity would never bow to tyrants. As the news of the Battle of Sol spread throughout the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. Species after species began declaring independence from the Council. The Trilaxians, the Morphic Collective, and dozens of minor races announced they would no longer accept Council authority. Captain Min Seok Han, monitoring communications from a dozen systems, reported the cascade effect to Admiral Kim. "Sir, it's like a dam breaking. Everyone who was afraid to speak out before is finding their courage now. The Council's authority is collapsing across the galaxy." But Kim wasn't interested in conquest or domination. As human fleets moved through former Council space, they brought a different message. Admiral Young-Soo Bay broadcasted from the captured Council station at Nexus Prime. "To all species of the galaxy, the tyranny of the Galactic Council is ended. Humanity does not seek to replace their empire with our own." The first Council patrol to disappear was the Vigilant Pride, a Zephyrian heavy cruiser with an escort of 6 destroyers. They were conducting routine sweeps near the border of what had been Catherian space when they simply vanished. No distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. Fleet Admiral Kexthor of the Zephyrian Empire studied the report with growing unease. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. 7 ships don't just disappear, he told his staff. Pirates don't have that kind of firepower. What happened to them? The answer came from Captain Narration, commander of the human strike force Phantom Wing. Her ships had ambushed the patrol near a debris field that had once been a Catherian research station. Using new stealth technology and tactics that the Council had never seen before, they had eliminated the entire enemy formation in less than 10 minutes. Target destroyed, she reported to Admiral Kim via encrypted communication. No survivors, no evidence. Moving to next objective. This was the new face of human warfare. Small, fast groups striking without warning, then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. The Council forces, used to massive fleet battles and formal military engagements, had no idea how to respond. Over the next month, 17 more Council patrols and supply convoys disappeared. Each attack was different, using new tactics and targeting different types of ships. The psychological impact was enormous. Council captains began refusing to take solo patrol missions, demanding larger escort groups. Captain Seok Jin Park commanded a converted merchant vessel called the Busan Trader. To any observer, it looked like a refugee ship fleeing human space. In reality, it was packed with assault troops and hidden weapons. When a hegemony checkpoint tried to board them for inspection, they discovered too late what they were really dealing with. Another checkpoint eliminated, Park reported, captured their communication codes and patrol schedules. Intelligence value is excellent. The Council's response was predictably heavy-handed. They increased patrols, strengthened checkpoints, and began aggressive sweeps of systems where attacks had occurred. But human forces had anticipated this reaction. Every time Council ships concentrated in one area, humans struck somewhere else entirely. Admiral Youngsu Bei led what became known as the Ghost Fleet, ships that appeared to be civilian vessels but were actually mobile strike platforms. They targeted Council infrastructure with surgical precision. Shipyards, communication relays, supply depots, and logistics centers were hit in coordinated attacks across dozens of systems. The beauty of the strategy was its unpredictability. Council forces never knew where the next attack would come from or what form it would take. Sometimes it was conventional military strikes. Sometimes it was sabotage from within. Sometimes facilities just suffered mysterious accidents that destroyed critical equipment. Captain Sujin Moon specialized in what human intelligence called deep strikes can attacks, far behind enemy lines using stealth ships that could penetrate Council defenses. Her target was a major hegemony command and control center in the Antares sector. Beginning infiltration, she reported as her ship, disguised as space debris, drifted toward the heavily fortified station. Enemy sensors show no detection. The attack was swift and brutal. Moon's team planted explosives throughout the facility, while simultaneously uploading viruses into their computer systems. When they detonated the charges, they destroyed not just the station but terabytes of military intelligence and operational data. Target eliminated, Moon reported as her ship slipped away in the confusion. Bonus: we downloaded their entire strategic database before the destruction. Command should find it very interesting. That intelligence proved invaluable. Commander Jae-won Kim used the captured data to launch information warfare campaigns that struck at the Council's greatest weakness: their arrogance. Carefully edited recordings of Council leaders discussing the primitive humans and their inevitable defeat were broadcast across the galaxy. The effect was exactly what Kim had hoped for. Other species began to wonder, if the humans were so primitive, why were they winning? If the Council was so powerful, why couldn't they stop these attacks? But the most devastating blow came when Captain Woo Jin-yoon led a daring raid on the hegemony's most prestigious warship, the Eternal Dominion, the same vessel that Lieutenant Commander Shin had been aboard during the destruction of Catheria Prime. This is personal, Yoon told his assault team as their stealth ships approached the massive dreadnought. This ship participated in genocide. Everyone aboard is complicit in mass murder. The attack was a masterpiece of planning and execution. While the ship's sensors searched for external threats, Human commandos were already aboard, having infiltrated during a routine supply transfer. They systematically disabled the ship's defenses from within, while Yoon's fighters attacked from outside. Fleet Admiral Dexmore, the architect of Cytheria Prime's destruction, died in his command chair as human soldiers stormed the bridge. His last words were a shocked whisper. "This is impossible. They're just humans." The capture of the Eternal Dominion sent shockwaves through Council space. The ship was the pride of the hegemony fleet, supposedly invincible. Yet humans had not only destroyed its crew but captured the vessel intact, along with all its advanced technology and intelligence data. Commander Bo-Ram Choi led the technical analysis team that stripped every useful piece of equipment and data from the captured dreadnought. What they discovered was better than anyone had hoped. "Their technology isn't as advanced as they pretended," she reported to Admiral Kim. "We've been assuming they were centuries ahead of us, but in many areas were actually superior. Their main advantage was numbers and political control, not technological superiority." This revelation changed everything. Admiral Kim authorized Captain Kyung-ho Nam to begin Phase A2 of the human offensive, larger-scale operations designed to destroy Council military infrastructure, rather than just harass their forces. Nam's target was the massive shipyard complex at Rigel Station, where the Council built their largest warships. The facility was protected by an entire battle fleet and multiple layers of defensive systems. According to traditional military thinking, attacking it would require a massive invasion force. Nam used a different approach. His strike force consisted of modified civilian ships loaded with specialized equipment. Instead of attacking the defenses directly, they targeted the industrial infrastructure that kept the shipyard operational. Power generators, manufacturing equipment, raw material storage, and worker housing were all hit simultaneously. "The beautiful thing about industrial sabotage," Nam explained to his team, "is that you don't need to destroy everything. You just need to break enough critical systems that nothing else works properly." Within hours, Rigel Station was in chaos. With power systems failing and manufacturing equipment destroyed, the massive facility ground to a halt. The defense fleet was intact, but they were protecting a pile of expensive scrap metal. As news of these victories spread through human space, morale reached incredible heights. Captain Min Seok Han, commanding a strike force in the Outer Rim, reported that volunteer applications were flooding in from every human colony. "We have more people wanting to fight than we have ships to put them in," he reported. "Everyone wants a chance to hit back at the species that murdered our friends." But it wasn't just about revenge anymore. Each successful operation proved that the mighty Council could be beaten. The psychological effect rippled through the galaxy as other species began to reconsider their assumptions about power and authority. Dr. Hee-Jin Ko analyzed the intelligence reports coming in from across Council space. "They're starting to panic," she told Admiral Kim. "Their military commanders are requesting reinforcements. Their political leaders are demanding explanations, and their civilian populations are beginning to question whether the Council can actually protect them." The fear was spreading. For the first time in thousands of years, the Council races were discovering what it felt like to be hunted. Instead of hunters, their ships traveled in large groups. Their commanders stayed in heavily defended systems, and their leaders surrounded themselves with ever larger security forces. And still the humans struck. Each attack was different, each victory more impossible than the last. Supply convoys vanished in hyperspace. Military bases suffered catastrophic accidents. Elite units were ambushed and destroyed by forces that appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as quickly. The message was clear. Nowhere in Council space was safe. No target was beyond human reach, and every victory brought them closer to the ultimate goal, making the species that had murdered the Cytherians pay for their crimes. Admiral Kim stood in his command center, watching the tactical displays that showed human forces operating throughout the galaxy. In just 6 months, they had gone from being dismissed as primitive refugees to becoming the most feared military force in known space. "Status report," he ordered. "Council military effectiveness down 40%, reported Commander Nam. "Their supply lines are in chaos. Their communication networks are compromised, and their battle fleets are too scared to operate in small groups." Political situation? Protocol Omega had been a theoretical plan. something Admiral Kim hoped they would never need to use. Now, as coded messages flashed across human space, that theory became deadly reality. To the watching galaxy, it looked like humanity was running scared. Human ships began retreating from Council space. Civilian populations evacuated from frontier colonies, and diplomatic communications went silent. The Council species watched with satisfaction. The primitive humans knew their place. They were completely wrong. On the hidden research station Deep Haven, tucked inside an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, engineer Dongmin Ryu supervised the most important project of his life. The facility had been built in secret over 10 years, officially listed as a mining operation. In reality, it was humanity's insurance policy. "How long until the first batch is ready?" asked Captain Yan Wuhan, commander of the station's defense forces. Dongmin wiped sweat from his forehead as he watched the massive construction drones work. 72 hours for the initial 12 vessels. Another week for the full first wave. What they were building didn't look like traditional human warships. These vessels were sleeker, more advanced, incorporating technology that humanity had been secretly developing since joining the Council. The aliens thought they knew human capabilities. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Dr. Hyejin Ko stood before a holographic display showing the new ship designs. As humanity's leading expert on xenopsychology, she had spent years studying how alien minds worked. Now that knowledge would be weaponized. The Council races think in patterns, she explained to a room full of military officers. The Hegemony Collective uses mathematical formations and overwhelming firepower. The Zephyrians prefer classic military doctrine with heavy frontal assaults. They'll expect us to fight like humans have always fought in Council war games. Predictable, emotional, disorganized. Captain Nari Song, one of humanity's most promising young commanders, raised her hand. "So we do the opposite?" "Exactly. We fight like humans actually fight when we're serious. Unpredictable, adaptive, and absolutely ruthless when protecting what we love." Back on Earth, Colonel Minho Jiang coordinated the largest secret military mobilization in human history. Civilian cargo ships were being retrofitted with military-grade shields and weapons. Mining vessels became troop transports. Even passenger liners were converted into mobile command centers. "The beauty of it," he explained to his staff, "is that the Council's intelligence services are watching our official military. They're tracking our battleships and counting our fighter squadrons. They have no idea that we've turned our entire civilian fleet into a navy." The plan was audacious in its scope. Every human colony, every mining station, every research outpost was being transformed into a military asset. To outside observers, these facilities looked abandoned or reduced to skeleton crews. In reality, they were becoming fortified bases for the war to come. On Europa, Dr. Sojin Park worked frantically to download and secure every piece of Catherian research data she could access. Before their communication networks had gone dark, Velthara had managed to transmit their most important scientific discoveries to human space. "We won't let their knowledge die with them," she muttered, as she copied terabytes of medical research, star charts, and technological specifications. "If nothing else survives this war, their contribution to the galaxy will." Some of that Catherian technology was already being integrated into humanity's secret weapons. Their advanced sensor systems, combined with human engineering, had produced detection equipment that could track enemy ships through hyperspace. Their medical knowledge had led to enhanced combat stimulants and rapid healing systems for human soldiers. Lieutenant Commander Tae Ho Shin had managed to escape from Council space aboard a stolen shuttle, and his intelligence briefings were invaluable. He sat in a secure conference room on Mars, sharing everything he had learned about enemy capabilities and strategies. "The Council fleet commanders are arrogant," he reported. "They believe their own propaganda about human inferiority." Admiral Dexmore actually laughed when someone suggested humans might pose a real threat. He said, "We're too emotional and chaotic to mount effective resistance." Admiral Kim smiled grimly. "Good. Let them keep thinking that." The preparations weren't just military. Commander Yoonji Nam had been busy creating a network of agents and sympathizers throughout Council space. Many alien species had been horrified by the destruction of Catheria Prime. Even if they hadn't spoken out publicly, some were willing to help humanity in small ways. "We have allies," she reported to Kim. "Not enough to fight openly, but enough to provide intelligence and logistical support." The Trilaxians are disgusted by the genocide. The Morphic Collective thinks the Council went too far. Even some individual Zephyrians are having second thoughts. Meanwhile, Captain Seokjin Park commanded a ghost fleet of human vessels that officially didn't exist. Using modified civilian ships and prototype military craft, his forces began moving into position throughout the galaxy. To any observers, they looked like refugee convoys or merchant vessels. In reality, they were an invasion fleet. The key is patience, he told his captains during a secure communication. We let them think they've won. We let them get comfortable. And then we show them what human warfare really looks like. On the industrial world of New Busan, factory complexes worked around the clock producing weapons and equipment. The facilities had been expanded in secret over the past decade, with manufacturing capacity hidden in underground complexes and orbital platforms that appeared to be asteroid mining operations. Admiral Young-soo Bei oversaw the production lines that were turning out everything from advanced fighter craft to specialized assault weapons. Each piece of equipment incorporated lessons learned from studying Council technology and tactics. Our fighters are faster than theirs, he reported to Admiral Kim. Our weapons hit harder. Our armor adapts to different types of damage, but most importantly, our people know what they're fighting for. That last point was crucial. Every human in the fleet had seen the footage from Catheria Prime. They had watched their friends and allies being murdered by the Council's forces. The anger and determination radiating through human space was almost tangible. Captain Sujin Moon commanded one of the new stealth ships, vessels that could move undetected through enemy space. Her mission was reconnaissance and preparation, mapping Council defenses and identifying key targets. Their security is designed to stop traditional attacks, she reported after a successful scouting mission. They're not prepared for asymmetric warfare or unconventional tactics. We can hit them where they never expect it. The psychological preparation was as important as the military build-up. Dr. Ko had developed training programs that taught human soldiers to exploit alien weaknesses and fears. The Council races had grown soft during their long dominance, comfortable in their superiority. They were about to discover that comfort could be a deadly weakness. Commander Jae-won Kim, the Admiral's nephew and a specialist in information warfare, worked on another crucial aspect of the coming conflict. When we strike, the entire galaxy will be watching, he explained to his team. We need to control the narrative. Show them that we're not the chaotic primitives the Council claims we are. We're the species that remembers our friends and punishes those who hurt them. As the 48-hour deadline approached, Admiral Kim stood once again on the observation deck of the Terran Defense Station. But now, instead of looking at a peaceful Mars, he saw a world transformed into the heart of a war machine. Ships moved in and out of orbit, carrying supplies and personnel. For the conflict ahead, his staff gathered around him for the final briefing before the deadline expired. Status report, he said quietly. All human military and civilian personnel have been evacuated from Council. Space, reported Commander Nam. Ghost, fleets are in position, added Captain Park. Manufacturing is at full capacity, confirmed Admiral. Bei, intelligence networks are active and providing real-time data, said Lieutenant Commander Shin. Kim nodded. Everything was ready. The Council expected humanity to surrender meekly, to accept their domination like so many species before them. Instead, they were about to face an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Send the message, he ordered. The transmission went out across the galaxy, broadcast on every channel and frequency. It was simple and direct. To the Galactic Council, you murdered billions of innocent Catherians based on fabricated evidence. You did this to eliminate species that dared to be our friends. Now you demand our surrender, thinking we will submit to the same fate. You are mistaken. Humanity does not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not surrender. You wanted to see what we're capable of when we're angry. You're about to find out. The war had begun. The emergency council session was called with less than 12 hours' notice. Ambassador Mi-young Choi rushed to the massive council chamber on the neutral station, orbiting the gas giant Nexus Prime. Something was wrong. In her 5 years as humanity's representative, she had never seen the council move this fast on anything. The chamber was packed. Representatives from over 40 species sat in their designated sections, but the atmosphere felt different, hostile. Mi-young noticed that the Catherian delegation was smaller than usual, with only 3 representatives instead of their normal 12. High Counselor Zexthrin of the Hegemony Collective called the session to order. His metallic voice echoed through the chamber as translation devices converted his words into hundreds of languages. Fellow council members, we have discovered a threat to galactic peace that requires immediate action. Mi-young felt her stomach drop. This was not going to be good. Zex Thran activated a holographic display that showed what appeared to be scientific data. Our investigation has revealed that the Catherian Republic has been secretly developing biological weapons in direct violation of the Council's Weapons Control Treaty. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps and angry chittering from various alien species. Mi-young stared at the display in disbelief. She knew the Catherians better than most humans. They were healers, not warriors. The idea of them creating weapons was absurd. This is impossible, she said, standing up. The Catherians have been working on medical research, not weapons. I've seen their laboratories myself. Zex Thran's cold eyes fixed on her. Ambassador Choi, your species' close relationship with the accused makes your objectivity questionable. The evidence is clear. More holographic displays showed laboratory footage, chemical formulas, and what appeared to be weapon test results. To someone who didn't know better, it looked convincing. But Mi-young had worked with Catherian scientists for years. She could see the inconsistencies in the data. The Catherian representative, an elderly female named Sith Ara, rose slowly from her seat. Honored council members, these accusations are false. We have never developed weapons of any kind. Our research focuses solely on healing and preservation of life. The evidence suggests otherwise, declared War Marshal Krithan of the Zephyrian Empire. The biological agents shown in these files could kill billions if released into a planet's atmosphere. Mi-young studied the faces around the chamber. She realized with growing horror that many of the representatives had already made up their minds. This wasn't a trial or investigation. It was a setup. I demand time to review this evidence properly, she said. These serious accusations require careful examination. Time is a luxury we cannot afford, Zex Thran replied. If these weapons exist, they pose an immediate threat to galactic security. The Council must act now. The vote was called immediately. One by one, species after species voted to authorize what they called protective intervention against the Catherian Republic. Mi-young and the 3 Catherian representatives were the only ones who voted against it. As the session ended, Sith Ara approached Mi-young with tears in her large eyes. They mean to destroy us, she whispered. Please warn our people. Tell them to evacuate the core worlds. But it was already too late. Lieutenant Commander Taeho Shin stood on the bridge of the hegemony dreadnought Eternal Dominion, watching in horror as the massive council fleet dropped out of hyperspace around Catheria Prime. He was there as an observer, supposedly to learn about council military operations. Instead, he was about to witness something that would haunt him forever. The planet below was beautiful. Green continents were scattered across blue oceans, with white clouds swirling in the atmosphere. Cities sparkled like jewels on the night side of the world. It looked peaceful and innocent. Beginning orbital bombardment, announced Fleet Admiral Dexmore in a voice as cold as space itself. Wait, Shin said, unable to stop himself. What about evacuation protocols? Civilian protection, the Council's own rules about the contaminated population poses a biological threat. Dexmore cut him off. Evacuation would spread the weapons to other worlds. Complete sterilization is the only safe option. Shin watched in growing horror as the fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced down from orbit, turning cities into craters of molten glass. The Catherian orbital defense platforms, designed more for asteroid protection than warfare, were destroyed in seconds. Sir, we're receiving surrender transmissions from the planet, reported the communications officer. Irrelevant, Dexmore replied. Continue firing. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. When it was over, Catheria Prime was a dead world. The oceans boiled. The atmosphere was poisoned with radiation, and not a single city remained standing. Billions of innocent Catherians had been murdered. Shin felt sick. This wasn't justice or protection. This was genocide. As the fleet prepared to leave, he managed to send a coded message to Earth. The Council had just shown what they were capable of. And if they could do this to the peaceful Catherians, what would they do to humanity? Back at the Council station, Admiral Kim received Shin's message just as Ambassador Choi returned from the emergency session. Her face was white with shock and rage. They're calling it a successful operation, she said, her voice shaking. Zexthran announced that the biological weapons threat has been eliminated. He didn't mention the billions of civilians they killed. Kim felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. Show me the evidence they presented. As they reviewed the holographic displays from the council session, Commander Yoonji Nam analyzed the data with her intelligence team. It didn't take long to find the problems. Sir, this evidence is fake, she reported. The laboratory footage shows equipment that doesn't exist in Catherian facilities. The chemical formulas are for medicines, not weapons. Someone altered the molecular structures to make them look dangerous. Who would have the resources to create such detailed forgeries? Kim asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Only the Council's intelligence services, Nam replied. This was planned well in advance. They've been looking for an excuse to eliminate the Catherians for months, maybe years. Dr. Sojin Park's voice came through the communication system from Europa. She had been trying to contact Velthera and her research team on Catheria Prime for hours. Admiral, I can't reach anyone on Catherian worlds. All communication channels are dead. Even the emergency frequencies aren't responding. Kim closed his eyes. He had known Velthera personally. She had been a brilliant scientist and a true friend to humanity. Now she was gone, along with her entire civilization. Sir, Captain Lee's voice came through from the Incheon. We're receiving a priority transmission from the Council. It's addressed to you personally. The holographic image of High Counselor Zexithran appeared in Kim's office. The alien's metallic face showed no emotion as he delivered his message. Admiral Kim, the Council has completed its investigation into the Human Catherian Alliance. We have determined that your species' influence contributed to the Catherians' illegal weapons development. While we understand this may have been unintentional, it demonstrates the danger of allowing primitive species too much freedom in galactic affairs. Kim's hands clenched into fists, but he kept his expression neutral. Therefore, Zexithran continued, the Council has voted to place humanity under protective supervision. You have 48 hours to recall all human military vessels to Earth space and surrender command of your forces to Council oversight. Any resistance will be considered an act of aggression against galactic peace. The transmission ended, leaving Kim's office in deadly silence. They're going to do to us what they did to the Catherians, Mi-young said quietly. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. We're next on their list. Kim stood up and walked to the window looking out at Mars. Somewhere out there, the remains of Catheria Prime were cooling in the darkness of space. Billions of innocent beings had died because they had been friends with humanity. No, he said finally. They're not. Sir? Commander Nam asked. Kim turned back to his staff and they saw something new in his eyes. Something hard and dangerous. Send coded messages to all human colonies and military units. Authorization. Protocol Omega. It's time to show the Council what happens when they murder our friends. The war was about to begin. Admiral Hyunwoo Kim stood on the observation deck of the Terran Defense Station, watching Mars turn slowly below. The red planet looked peaceful from orbit, but Kim knew that peace was fragile. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years, and they were still the new kids on the block. The other alien races treated humans like children who had just learned to walk. Kim's reflection was broken by the sound of footsteps. Dr. Sojin Park approached, carrying a datapad and wearing a tired smile. She had just returned from the Catherian research station on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. How did the medical research go? Kim asked. Sojin's smile grew wider. Better than expected. Velthera and her team made a breakthrough in neural regeneration therapy. They're sharing everything with us, no secrets. It's amazing how different they are from the other Council races. The Catherians were indeed different. While most alien species in the Council looked down on humans, the Catherians had welcomed them with open arms. They were a reptilian species with green scales and large, intelligent eyes. Their culture valued knowledge, peace, and cooperation above all else. They had been the first to offer genuine friendship to humanity. The Council meeting is next week, Kim said, his voice growing serious. I've heard rumors that some races are unhappy about our alliance with the Catherians. Sojin frowned. Why? We're just sharing medical knowledge and cultural exchanges. Nothing threatening about that. Kim wasn't so sure. He had been to enough council meetings to know how the politics worked. The Hegemony Collective and the Zephyrian Empire dominated everything. They had been in power for thousands of years and didn't like change. Humanity's rapid progress and their friendship with the Catherians was definitely change. On the bridge of the battleship Incheon, Captain Ji-Ho Lee reviewed the latest intelligence reports. His ship was patrolling the outer edge of human space, keeping watch for any threats. What he saw in the reports worried him. "Commander," he called to his second-in-command, "look at these fleet movements near Catherian space. 3 different species have increased their military presence in that sector." His commander studied the data. "Could be routine exercises, sir." "Maybe," Lee said, but his gut told him otherwise. He had been a soldier long enough to recognize the signs of military buildup. "Send a message to Admiral Kim. He needs to see this." Back at the defense station, Kim received Lee's report just as Ambassador Mi-young Choi arrived for their weekly briefing. She looked frustrated, which had become her normal expression after council meetings. "Let me guess," Kim said. "Another friendly discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy?" "They're getting bolder with their insults," Mi-young replied. "The hegemony representative called us emotionally unstable primitives right to my face. The Zephyrian delegate suggested we need closer supervision from more mature races. And the Catherians? Velthara's people defended us as always, but they're just one voice against many." Mi-young sat down heavily. "Hyunwoo, I think some of the council members are planning something. The way they look at us has changed. There's real hostility now." Kim showed her Lee's intelligence report. As she read, her face grew pale. "This isn't good," she whispered. "Military buildups near Catherian space, hostile rhetoric against humans in the council, and growing alliances between the older races. It feels like they're setting up for something big." Lieutenant Commander Tae-ho Shin was having similar thoughts aboard the council observation ship Harmony's Dawn. He was there as part of the cultural exchange program, supposed to be learning about galactic cooperation. Instead, he was watching the other officers plan what looked like military operations. The ship's captain, a tall blue-skinned Zephyrian named Kekstar, didn't bother hiding his disgust when talking about humans and Catherians. "The humans breed too fast and advance too quickly," Kekstar told his officers during a briefing Shin wasn't supposed to hear. "They've been in space for barely 2 centuries and already they think they belong at our table. Worse, they've corrupted the Catherians with their chaotic thinking." Shin memorized every word, storing it away for his reports back to Earth. But as the days passed, he began to realize that his reports might not matter. The council races weren't just talking anymore. They were planning. On Catheria Prime, the capital world of the Catherian Republic, Velthara worked late in her laboratory. She was preparing for another joint research session with Dr. Park, excited about the possibilities their collaboration could bring. The Catherians had always believed that knowledge should be shared freely, and humans seemed to understand this principle. Her assistant, a younger Catherian named Morday, entered with news from the Planetary Defense Force. "Unknown ships have been detected at the edge of our system," he reported. "They're not responding to identification requests." Velthara looked up from her work. "How many ships?" "At least 30, possibly more. They're maintaining distance, but they're definitely watching us." This was troubling news. Catheria Prime was a peaceful world with minimal military defenses. They had always relied on council law and their reputation as healers and teachers for protection. If someone wanted to hurt them, they had few ways to defend themselves. Back on Earth, Commander Yoonji Nam sat in her intelligence office, trying to make sense of the patterns she was seeing. Fleet movements, diplomatic tensions, and suspicious communications all pointed to the same conclusion. Someone was planning to move against the human-Catherian alliance. "Admiral Kim needs to see this," she told her assistant, "and we need to warn the Catherians." But even as she prepared her report, Nam wondered if it would be enough. The Galactic Council had been playing political games for thousands of years. Humanity had been part of their system for only 50 years. If the older races had decided that humans and their allies were a threat, could Earth really do anything to stop them? On the Terran Defense Station, Admiral Kim called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. Captain Lee had arrived from the Incheon. Dr. Park was connecting via video link from Europa, and Ambassador Choi sat at the conference table looking grim. "The situation is escalating faster than we thought," Kim began. "Intelligence suggests multiple council races are coordinating against us and our Catherian allies. The question is, what do we do about it?" "We should warn the Catherians," Dr. Park said immediately. "They trust the council system. They might not realize the danger they're in. Already done, Kim replied. But Velthara says her people believe council law will protect them. They can't imagine that other civilized races would break their own rules. Captain Lee leaned forward. Sir, with respect, maybe we should consider pulling back from the alliance. If associating with us is putting the Catherians at risk, no. Kim's voice was firm. We don't abandon our friends. If the council has a problem with our alliance, they can address it through proper diplomatic channels. But even as he spoke those words, Kim felt a chill. He had been around politics long enough to know that sometimes proper channels weren't enough. Sometimes powerful people decided that rules didn't apply to them. And if that happened, both humanity and their Catherian friends might pay a terrible price for their friendship.